Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Pittsburgh Current Podcast, live from the beautiful Beachview Business District here at Sorgatron Media. We have a great show today, and we've had a pretty good week also. We want to thank everyone for coming out to our birthday bash last week that was near the Flashlight Factory, but was actually on the Netflix set for the new Denzel Washington movie because we had some occupancy permit issues at the last. Yeah, it was, and I was in Denver because I was at a conference. But I also want to thank Bethany and Serenity and everyone on our staff who pulled this out of our collective butts at the very, very last minute and really made a nice party to celebrate our 1 year. And coming Tuesday will be our 1 year anniversary birthday issue. We're going to recount some of the great moments of the best year ever, even though it was our first year ever. We're pretty excited about that. And you can also catch the current issue. You've got a few more days to get the current issue of the Pittsburgh Current on newsstands, racks, and boxes. So my guest today, some people don't like to admit that they're fans of reality TV, but I love reality TV, especially mainly competition reality TV. And our guest today is just coming off a stint on Masterchef, where he was one of, he'll tell us the number in a second, Michael Silverstein, Stanton Heights Masterchef contestant. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. Happy to be here.
Great to have you. So you were, so we were talking a little bit before. The process for these shows is, especially this show at least, is a pretty long process. So tell us a little bit about how you decided to get involved, and then what the whole startup was like for that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we all see what we see on TV. The reality, the finished episodes, but it's unbelievable what goes into this before we even start filming episode one. I started this process almost a year ago, so we're talking about basically 10 months of effort and work and time that's going into this, really with no idea what the outcome is going to be. Right. So in September, I had my first audition in New York. I was called out to New York to meet with one of Gordon Ramsay's chefs and cook a dish and meet with producers. I guess they had seen some of my work on Instagram and stuff like that. So I flew out to New York in September, and that's really when things started rolling. They asked me to stay in New York, and the process kind of kept going on and on for a while. I had to do everything, from culinary testing, camera testing. I mean, it was an intense process. So, we're talking, I think they said 20,000 people, something like that, tried out for this season. And then it just kind of, the field got smaller and smaller until episode 1, which started with 36, and I made it into the top 16. Wow. So I don't know. I mean, I'm good with it. 20,000 to 16. Yeah, I'm good with it.
That's really awesome. And so how did you, was it, so you've always been a home cook, correct? Yeah. But some people, even people in your life, didn't know that you cooked, right? I read that somewhere.
Yeah, it's
in one
funny.
Of the stories,
including actually a lot of very close people in my life, my family, my mom. I mean, cooking for me was a personal thing. I did it at home, but I took it very seriously. I guess you could say it was a really intense hobby for me. Right. I guess it was just something I never felt the need to really show off or. It's just not me to kind of make a big show out of things. Ironic that I was just on a reality TV show and I'm saying that, but it's just true. I'm actually a pretty introverted person. I'm really not interested in fame or I don't know. It's just not who I am. And I think that, doing this show was a way to kind of just push myself into something totally different. Just be crazy for a minute and try something new. I didn't expect to make it past that first round. So, I've never been on TV. I've never done camera work. I didn't even like my picture taken, before this all started. Wow. I still really don't. So, I think this has just kind of been a fun experience and being out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
But it was kind of funny. I had this Instagram account with, I don't know, it was like 8 or 10,000 people at that time, and people in my life started watching the show, and they're figuring out this Instagram. Like, how do you have, a 5-figure following,
Right.
and your best friends and family
Right.
don't even know about it? It's sort of funny. But
So how is that? How did that happen, do you think? So how'd the Instagram thing start, I guess, first?
I guess the food.
Yeah.
So my focus is keto, which is new in my life. I've been
Yeah.
cooking, forever, but I was really overweight. I was unhappy and decided to make a change. Everybody's talking about keto, so I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. Basically, you're cutting out carbs, no sugar, no bread, But honestly, for what I thought was going to be a fad diet, it really worked for me.
Yeah.
I started shedding weight really quickly, and I got really into almost challenging myself. Can I make diet food just as delicious as what I was doing
Right.
before? That kind of became this interesting personal challenge, and I started posting what I was making at home. And, I guess people responded well because, I don't know, I guess there's not a lot of context for elevated, diet food or whatever
Yeah.
you want. I hate using that word,
Right.
Because it's a scary word, and it
Right.
just, I hate using that word, but it's a reality,
Yeah.
for me. And, so I started growing this following and trying to make, very plated, elegant food that fit within this gluten-free, sugar-free structure. And people responded well. So I kept going. And, on the show, we're often given an assignment of what we're cooking.
Right.
So I wasn't always able to cook within my creative realm on the
Right.
show. Although a few times I was. Other times, like they asked us to make this apple tart dessert, and obviously loaded in sugar and
Right,
caramel and all
right.
this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Ironically, the guy who cooks without sugar won that challenge. So I was kind of proud of that moment, just because it's funny to me that
Yeah.
all the bakers got out baked
Right.
by the keto guy. But no, it was cool, and I think it's something that I want to keep pushing now. I just started my YouTube channel and put out my first video this week for the crab cakes I made that got me onto the show. And they're keto, but they're also just delicious crab
Yeah.
cakes. So I think that's kind of what I'm trying to continue talking about
Right.
and communicating to people, that you can eat really freaking well,
Right.
and be healthy at the same time. So
Absolutely.
it's a tough balance, because I don't want to be preachy or
Yeah.
have an agenda, but it's just, that's genuinely how I live and how I cook at this point.
Absolutely. So I hate to in case somebody got, although this is my reporter, so I'm sure she got great information, but it was your fiance who suggested that you apply?
Yeah. Like I said, I never wanted this. I mean, I never
Yeah.
really saw myself as somebody that would be, I don't know,
Yeah.
meant for TV, I guess you
Yeah.
could say. And I still almost feel like that. My fiance, we watched the show. So last season we were watching the show, and it kind of popped up this little blurb,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
coming to cities near you.
Right.
And I'm like, I literally ignored it. And he said, Mike, you should do it. Your food is
Yeah.
better than these people.
Right.
I know what you cook.
Yeah.
You should do it. I'm like, do what? Like, are you crazy?
Right.
I don't even, please, this is so far from somewhere I belong. But sort of as a funny joke, it was actually my birthday. We were kind of joking, having some drinks, and we sent in a very simple application that's basically just your name and your link to your social media. Very, very simple stuff. I forgot about it. I mean, honestly, it was kind of a joke. A couple of weeks later, I get the phone call to come to New York.
Wow.
So, and at that point, you don't say no.
Right.
I remember that first day I was in Times Square, and I was standing outside of the hotel, actually shaking
Wow.
with nerves, because, this is just not me. And, to some extent, now looking back on it, maybe it helped me a little bit, because I think a lot of people that try out for these shows just want to be on TV.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that people could tell from watching the season that, I feel like I was really authentic the whole time.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get caught up in this reality TV, mindset, just being loud and, calling for attention. And that's, I think, what a lot of people started to think about, who were in auditions and stuff, what they thought the show would want. Yeah. And for me, I had no choice but to just be myself. And I think in this case it worked. And I'm really proud of the fact that I really was me. Right. I never screamed and shouted and got really nasty and that's who I am. I'm actually a pretty calm guy. I thought that that was something that I was really proud of, that I kept my integrity and, and just did the best I could. I went there to cook. I didn't go there for airtime. Yeah.
Did you get the feeling that, some people were there to sort of make an impression, not necessarily, but, as like a personality, maybe not necessarily as a cook or a chef?
Not in the actual group that made it. It's hard to say, out of the thousands of people, I really didn't interact with that many, but, I think in general, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure. And, you can't help but sit there and, coach yourself as to what you think is going to get you through the next audition. And, for me, since I had no idea, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to cook.
Yeah.
And I think that it worked for me because, I did cook. Yeah. And I think up until the day I got eliminated, I had been, pretty much at the top of every single episode, and I'd done really well. I had won several rounds, and, I think that's because I was just there to cook. And I think for a lot of people, it was easy to get caught up in the cameras, in, the production. And, I think ultimately that doesn't really serve well.
So look at that. I was going to ask you about the, so you want, what are some dishes that you cooked that you were proud of or really happy with, or winning dishes that, obviously the pie, because,
Yeah, the pie.
Screw you, sugar eaters.
The pie was a good one. There was a cool challenge where they brought in a guest judge from Brazil, and we had a very limited set of ingredients to choose from, but we made a Latin inspired dish. And I had a good time with it. It was like kind of inspired by a trip I took in the coast, the west coast of Mexico in Baja. And I did like a grilled corn with a cactus pear and passion fruit salsa and this avocado mousse and these crispy tortilla, sort of straws. It really impressed the judges. I was kind of impressed with myself on that one because, it was one of those mystery boxes.
Oh, right, yeah.
I had no planning time. I think it was 45 minutes maybe. And I thought it was a good dish. I was pretty proud of that one, and it's something I hope to kind of recreate.
So the cooking times are, if they say you're cooking for 45 minutes, I'm watching you. You're cooking for 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It's not.
Oh, yeah. It's reality TV, but I'll tell you, the cooking is real.
Yeah.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Look, it's cooking in your house for 45 minutes. You can pull it off.
Right.
What's challenging is that you're cooking. You're also doing interviews, and the cameras are in front of you. Gordon Ramsay's screaming in your face. Sometimes you have these group challenges, and you're trying to work together with people that you barely know. I mean, it's not just the cooking, but the environment is freaking crazy. And also, there's this constant cloud over you of like, don't fuck it up. This is your shot. Like you've worked now for 8, 9, 10 months at this. And not only if you screw up could you go home, but you're screwing up in front of everybody
right?
And the few million people watching. Yeah. So pressure, man, the pressure got to a lot of us.
Yeah.
And I think that was ultimately what sent me home on my last episode, episode 9. The pressure, it's tough. I give me 45 minutes at home in my kitchen with a couple of friends.
Right.
I'll nail it.
So your last challenge, it was a group challenge, and were you the team leader?
So yeah, it was a double episode. I was the group captain for half of the cast. So I was the captain. They had made basically the two of us that were in the top.
Right.
Us both captains, one guy Nick and me. my team lost, and then I was sent into an elimination round where I did a partnered challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So it was me and one lady, Liz, cooking against three other pairs,
Gotcha.
6 other people. And it was tight. I mean, to be honest, none of us did very well. Like I said, the pressure's tough. They actually asked us to cook 7 dishes in an
cow.
hour and 15 minutes. And we could only cook. It was a tag team, so
Right.
I know you guys are wrestling guys. But, one of us was cooking at a time.
Right.
Every 10 minutes, we tapped out and switched. So cooking 7 dishes where you only have half of the time to cook
Right.
is tough. You're basically relying on somebody else with your fate.
Right.
And it's tough. I think the group challenges were the hardest for me. Because I've never worked in an environment where I cooked with other people.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my strongest part, trying to collaborate. When I cooked by myself, pretty much every time I was at the top. When I
Yeah.
cooked with a group, I pretty much lost every time. So, hey, it's something I kind of remember,
Right.
about this, that maybe I don't work so well with other people.
Doesn't play well with others.
Screw it. I don't know. So I did get eliminated on episode 9 with Liz. Our 7 dishes did not. Although we finished, we were actually the only group that finished every element.
Finished 7? Wow.
We finished all 7 and the sauces and everything, but that was kind of our downfall as well, because we rushed to get the 7 dishes
Right.
done, and in turn made a plethora of mistakes. So I went home. It's funny. I thought going home was going to be this like embarrassing moment. I don't know. Like I said, you're in your head about all
Yeah.
this stuff. And I'll tell you that I don't think I slept so well in months than the night after my elimination. It's, and not because, look, the experience was unbelievable. The best thing I've ever done in my life. But the pressure, it was sort of nice to just finally be able to be done.
Right. Yeah.
Just me.
Yeah.
And so, I think that was an interesting experience
Right.
that I had built up in my head, this disaster of
Right.
failing in front of my whole world. And then actually it was a fantastic experience. My friends came over, we lit off fireworks and popped champagne and we celebrated.
Yeah, that's
'cause,
awesome.
It's still freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
Like it's still awesome. So,
So
I'm
did
good with
you watch each week with a group or and have a little?
that.
And
Yeah.
So everybody there
we
was wondering, is this the week?
pre-film
Yeah.
the season, so all of us cast were home to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I did have all my friends come over every week. We all, I cooked every time and
Yeah.
made food and
You should have had it catered in.
I
That just
know.
would have been funny.
Actually, one night I was like, I can't do it. I ordered pizza. The Masterchef's ordering in pizza, but man, it was a blast. My friends are awesome. It was a fun time, and that's the part I'll kind of miss, having everybody over every week. But it's cool. Last night actually was another episode. I think tonight as well. And it was so funny to just be there kind of by myself, just as a nobody, just as like,
Right.
just a spectator.
Yeah.
And watched the blood spill.
Yeah.
And have nothing to do with it.
Right.
It was actually really, really enjoyable.
If you obviously if you couldn't win, obviously, were you kind of, again, like you said, it was a relief in a way, but would you have rather gone farther, or if you're not going to win, would you have rather maybe had an earlier exit?
That's a good question. If I knew I wasn't going to win,
right.
would I want to go further? That's a good question. It's tough. You're away from your family.
Yeah.
You're isolated. You're working 15, 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. The filming process is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think I would want to stay as long as possible. First of all, I'm not really somebody to half-ass anything
Right.
or whatever. But it's so cool. You're on set. You're interacting with, these celebrity chefs. You're, I don't know, the lights, the cameras. It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And they took us to some off-site locations and all that. I know the last group got flown to London.
Wow.
So yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been nice,
Yeah,
right?
that wouldn't have been a bad thing to get flown to London. Yeah, I certainly wish I lasted longer.
Sure.
But yeah, like I said, there's a strange relief as well to being done and being a nobody again.
This is the Pittsburgh Current Podcast. We are always somebody, Mike Sword. You know that. We're always somebody. Here at the Pittsburgh Current Podcast, we're here with Michael Silverstein, recent eliminee, from Masterchef, but still had a great showing. So absolutely. I wanted to ask you, this is actually one of my pet peeves about competition shows is, like, you did the challenge, you did all 7 dishes. It's just like, you know, when you watch Chopped and somebody leaves an ingredient off, right, but then they get through because everything else was okay. I always feel like, you know, that's a little bit of a disservice to the person who actually managed to complete. And what was the theme of that? Were the 7 dishes, what were they themed?
It was like hors d'oeuvres from around the world. So tacos, not hors d'oeuvres, but party food, I think it was. So it was party food from around the world. So it was tacos, spring rolls, dumplings, you know, a bunch of stuff from, you know, stuff like that, but all made from scratch. I mean, down to the tortillas, down to the, you know, everything from scratch, each with sauces and all this stuff, dipping sauces and stuff. So it was an intense challenge. We also had to invent one more country's dish of our choosing. So they assigned us 6 of the dishes, and then we had to come up with a 7th on the fly. Mm-hmm. So to your point, I don't disagree.
Right.
I think that it should have been a factor.
Right.
There are people who got through who didn't even come close to finishing. Wow. And you know, I'm not talking shit. I love everybody. We all got very close by this part. Yeah, a little bit of it. It's reality TV.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a little frustrating. Mm-hmm. I've noticed online and, you know, on Reddit and stuff, there's been a lot of people who agree with you. Yeah. I've gotten a lot of positive response. For me personally, I can say that a lot of people who watched felt like I shouldn't have gone home. Right. You know, great. It's done. But I can't say it doesn't feel nice to have the support of a lot of the audience. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, I mean, it sucked. It was frustrating. It was interesting. I didn't think I was going home. When we finished, and I looked at my platter of these 7 dishes, me and Liz were like, oh, shit, we pulled this off.
Yeah, we realized you were the only one.
This looked awesome. Right. And I still think if you watch the footage, our plate looked probably the best. Right. There was technical issues once they got into it. The fish on the tacos was undercooked and stuff like that. So, you know, I take responsibility for that. I'm not saying, you know, we got what we got. Right. But yeah, I guess there's a little bit of saltiness that, no pun intended, that we got sent home, and I thought we did pretty well.
Yeah, we're looking right now at the picture, or you looked a second ago at the picture of you and Liz there during the elimination. No happy faces there.
No. When we finished cooking, there was big hugs. We thought we nailed it. Yeah. Oops, I guess not. But
well, that's the other thing too. Is I always think, like you said, you were on top and doing well, and I think I kind of understand that you can't, you know, a lot of times in these shows, past performances doesn't matter at that moment. It's what you do in that challenge. Right. But still, I always think, like, in the back of my head sometimes that, you know, well, you got to think if it's between me and somebody who, you know. Yeah,
and you know, watching the season now, you know, I know all of the cast so well. Earlier on in the audition process, obviously, when there's hundreds, thousands, no. Mm-hmm. But especially the 20 of us who got our aprons and really started filming a lot together. We were basically living together. I mean, we got really close, and we were together for months. And I got a sense of a few people that I was really blown away by their skill. Their cooking really impressed me. Yeah. And I think some of them, and I can't name names, obviously, but I think some of them, it's going to be painful to see them go home because I know how good they are.
Right.
But like you're saying, that's not really factored in. It's what you do at that moment.
Yeah.
And it hurts a little bit. And I think I'd like to think, without sounding like a jerk, I'd like to think that I was a pretty good contender.
Yeah.
Gordon, I think Aaron as well, said that they all thought that I was going to be an easy top 10. It sucks, but it's the game.
Yeah.
It's the
Absolutely.
game. And in other sports, you'll see that too, in tournament style sport. One mistake,
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're the best poker
Yeah.
player in the world. If
Right.
you get the wrong hand. And I guess that's just a reality. Like I said, I've made peace with it. I don't have resentment, or I take responsibility for the flaws in that last dish and stuff. But I wish I had a little bit more chance to show what I can do.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I was top 10 material, but I guess I'll never know.
So obviously, I mean, Gordon Ramsay is one of the. I mean, forget chef. I mean, it's just one of the most recognizable celebrities.
Yeah.
That we have today.
He's also rich as hell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very successful guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I've eaten in some of his restaurants in Vegas. Always
Yeah,
had
yeah,
good
yeah.
experiences and stuff. So what was it? What was it like with what was it like meeting the judges? And did you get starstruck for a minute, or is there time to get starstruck at all?
That's a funny question, because Gordon especially has a particular presence. First of all, he's huge.
Yeah.
I'm a big guy, but Gordon towers over me, and he's got this huge head, he's like this big haircut. So that he fills the room physically, but also, in other ways, he's just so big.
Yeah.
The first time we met him, he sort of walked out the doors, and the room just kind of shuddered,
Right.
so to speak. These judges are unbelievable. Most of Gordon's stuff, in general, actually, I don't even want to say most. All of the cooking demos that he did, all of the the judgments, it's one take. There was an episode where he broke down a chicken blindfolded, one take,
Holy cow!
straight through. The guy, all three of the judges are unbelievable. I got to spend a day with Joe Bastianich at his famous restaurant in LA, and learn from his executive chefs and stuff. I mean, these guys are real deal.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you can't help but be a little starstruck. You can't help but be a little intimidated. But, like you kind of said, when you're in the midst of 45 minutes to cook, you're just thinking about your food. You're watching your pots and pans.
Right.
You kind of lose track of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
It's also kind of a funny part about watching the show is I was there on the floor cooking, and I'm seeing this footage now home of all this other drama that was
Right.
going on around me that I was oblivious to.
Oh yeah, you have no idea.
No
huh?
idea. There's people getting like their food thrown at the walls, and I mean, it's crazy. And I'm just like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Because, tunnel vision for sure. You don't have a choice. But yeah, the judges are awesome. Gordon he's tough. I mean, you see that personality on TV and stuff. And I can't say that he's much different in real life. He's tough. He really does hold us to a really high standard, especially in the kitchen. Outside of that, he's a tremendous guy. Last week when I got sent home, he sent me a direct message personally.
Wow.
That, like a paragraph, just, totally in support, totally positive, personal note. And I think that shows a lot about him. I'm sure he's got enough things to do than worry about me. And I think that really left me with this particularly fond memory of him, that he took the time to send me a note, just to say that, he thought I was going to be in the top 10 and he has my support. And I don't know. I think they're great guys. Aaron Sanchez too, huge heart. So I love the judges. I hope they'll continue to stay in touch, but I'm sure, they got other things to do.
With Joe Bastianich, is he as sort of hard and dickish in person as he sometimes appears on TV?
Off camera, obviously he warmed up.
Sure.
But I will say that the judges are a lot more like you see them on TV in real life.
Yeah.
They're not acting, and they're not
Right.
actors.
Right.
I think that they're tough, and they don't need to waste time with niceties. I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But they do care a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you get much mentoring like, I know when you're cooking, they come up, maybe they'll talk to you here and there, but
Yeah.
do you get much from them in terms of they're there to judge?
They're there to judge. There was actually very little to no off-camera training. We had to come prepared. And we knew that. There wasn't classes. I know a lot of people think with these shows that, you see from episode 1 till the finale, you'll see an amazing progression. It seems like everyone does better. And people assume that we're getting training, we're getting coaching.
Right.
The truth is, everybody in that top 20 group, even in the top 40, we are all very competent.
Yeah.
The environment, as I was explaining earlier, is so challenging that I think it doesn't show our best in the beginning. By the time you film more and more episodes, you really become tuned in to how to accomplish what you're trying to do in that time period.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. We do get that live coaching, and that does factor in a lot, but it's getting comfortable in that high stress, high pressure environment that by the end, I think you're really able to shine. And I think that's what's really cool to watch that transformation. But if you didn't come prepared, you were SOL, because
Right.
This was really a test of our culinary skill, and that's why for months leading up to, even before I knew for a fact if I was getting into the next round or the next round, I was training, and I figured it's good knowledge anyway. But I probably butchered 20 chickens at home, and 10 fish, and I had a list of desserts, and my friends loved me for a few months. Let me just tell you that. They were just getting ridiculous food like every night. So, I did a lot of training at home, and a lot of practice that, ultimately it's just great knowledge to have. So, you have to show up prepared.
Yeah. So there's no, so you really have to school yourself as well on various techniques and styles.
Totally.
And I mean, that's,
Totally.
I would assume that, especially like when they talk about, they seem to throw me when they talk about a sauce that I'm like, I've never heard of. I'm like, I don't know what that process is. And, somebody who went to culinary school, someone who's potentially a chef would know that,
Would know all of that. Yeah.
But yeah, so you have to, did you study up as well as cook? Yeah.
Very intensely. We are home cooks, but we are all very serious about our cooking. A lot of it I knew. Like I've been into food for a long time, so and I'm kind of a nerd, so I've spent over the last 10 years watching countless YouTube videos and nerding out for hours on YouTube, learning the French sauces and stuff. I've done that anyway, but the months leading up to the show, I lived in my books and my YouTube and studying and practicing poaching eggs and hollandaise, like anything you can think of, all the French techniques, all the the cutting techniques, and like I said, baking, desserts, really whatever you can think of. I memorized like all the cooking temperatures to get like the perfect, on every single cut of meat. On every single animal, and all of that stuff. How what fish you keep the skin on, and what, like anything you can think of, I was studying it, and that's, like I said, I didn't even know it through those studies if I would even make it on the show. I figured it was still good knowledge, but it was really costly, to be honest, to be cooking that much. And buying nice ingredients and stuff. It was also really time consuming. So I know for a lot of us who have jobs and lives, this was a challenge. That in itself was a challenge and a strain on our life. And again, that's why when when the book closed, there was a certain sense of relief, because for, the better part of a year, I was immersed in this.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to kind of especially last night for the first time, just kick my feet up and just be a spectator.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You are spectating. See, you've been good at the segues. You are now spectating the Pittsburgh Current podcast. We are wrapping up our conversation with Michael Silverstein, Masterchef contestant. So before you got in, as you said, you this took a huge chunk of your life. You work in real estate and architecture. Is that correct? So you had to walk away from that at least on some level for quite a period of time.
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
Talk about that decision that you had to make, but then also let's talk about what you plan to do for the future. Are you going back to that? Do you plan to do something in food? Or?
Well, backing up, yeah, I had to take a huge step back. I've been working for years on building my real estate business. I flip houses. Fortunately, I have an incredible business partner who supported me. He drove with me to New York for the first audition. I mean, not only is he my business partner, but he's one of my best buddies.
Yeah.
But the people in my life really stepped up, and that is something that will always kind of mean a lot to me. They set me up to be able to focus on this, and that's a huge, something. Again, that's something I really appreciate. But now with this, and my audience certainly has grown. I think I am going to be taking a step back. I haven't bought any new property and don't plan to. I'm thinking of taking the next year or so and really pushing my my culinary pursuits.
Yeah.
And so I actually just launched my YouTube channel this week and put up my first video, the Keto Chef on YouTube. And I'd love to keep building content. I know I've worked in restaurants my whole life at the front of house. I've never been a chef, but I've worked at restaurants my whole life. I know that life. I know the challenges of working in a restaurant. And I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet. I enjoy having nights
exactly
and weekends.
Exactly.
But I love food and cooking, and I'm hoping that I can turn this into an online thing. So I'm going to be pushing, being a recipe developer and a vlogger, writing and developing recipes. As I was mentioning earlier, trying to develop recipes around keto and gluten-free that are just as damn tasty as anything else. And keep pushing that message to people because, people so far have seemed to really respond well to it. So I'll keep putting out YouTube videos this week and throughout the rest of the next few months. And my Instagram page, Chef Michael Keto, is something that I really enjoy being a part of this community and being able to share not only what I cook, but when I go out to eat, what I order. And it's really fun. So kind of being a vlogger in the true millennial sense, isn't that the dream? Kind of being able to work and build content at home and somehow find a way to monetize eventually.
Right.
But for now, I'm going to take a little hold on real estate and see what I can do.
Absolutely. And just finally here, I have to ask: Do people recognize you on the streets? Do people? You get recognized?
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's weird. I kind of feel like I'm looking over my shoulder. Yeah, I do get recognized on the street. Yeah. There's been a few funny moments where people are very dramatic about it, a little bit of fangirling, and not just in Pittsburgh. I was shocked. I was in Austin for a food conference, and at Fogo de Chão, this guy comes running up to me, giving me a hug in a city where nobody knows me. So yeah, that's bizarre. Yeah. It is a small part of me that enjoys it, but a strong majority of myself just finds it tremendously embarrassing. So but it is funny. But I know in a few months I'll be obscure again, and I'm looking forward to that.
Well, that's where it's your turn, I guess, to pick it up.
Yeah. But reality TV is a strange thing, and I have a really positive outlook and a positive. I feel really motivated now at this point to kind of keep going.
Would you do this or something like it
again?
Oof. Like they have, what's that, the next Food Network star thing? Was that something that you'd consider something like that?
I don't know if I would do reality. I will say that it's kind of a dream now, a new dream of mine to have a cooking show.
Right.
So Food Network, if you're listening, pay
Give them
attention.
a call.
It is sort of a dream of mine. I think reality competition is a very specific beast.
Yeah.
And I think I've had my share of it.
Right.
But I would love to keep going and get on TV in other ways and have a cooking show. Who doesn't want to travel and
Right.
travel, food show and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see where that goes down the line. But reality TV, I think I'm done. I think I'm good.
Well, though it sounds like it was a good experience, which is
Amazing.
the best.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Chef Michael Silverstein, thank you so much for taking
Absolutely.
the time.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely,
This
our
is awesome.
pleasure. And this has been the Pittsburgh Current Podcast, again, live from the Beachview Business District at Sorgatron Media. Check us out. The new episode, the new issue is the new episode you're watching now. The new issue is out Tuesday, and we're going to see you next Thursday. Have a great week.
Thanks again.
A better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative.